Hello and welcome to the AIPT Comics Podcast, episode 368. Oh boy, we got a special episode for you guys because Steve Orlando's on the show, and whenever he's on the show, he gets spicy and he gets in-depth. It's about an hour-long interview, and you know why? Because we dig into a ton of his titles, not even all of them, but we talk about Valiant Beyond, we talk about his new indie comic, Deadweight, with Bobby Lee co-writing, the comedian. We talk about his Boom Studios horror stories, Good Bones. We talk about him being on Dragula Titans and what he learned from Todd McFarlane, because they were both on that show being judges, which was pretty awesome. DC X AEW. I mean, on and on. His X-Men Infinity comic. There's a lot to get through. And unfortunately, we recorded a day before Marvel announced his X-Men, Outback.
Outback.
So we didn't get into that, unfortunately, but it is a robust interview. A written version went up earlier this week, talking about Scarlet Witch specifically, but this is a lot more. And yeah, I think you guys will enjoy it, including you, Alex.
Yeah, no, I'm sure I will. I've always appreciated how Steve has always been prolific, but like the quality has never wavered. It's always top notch. I feel like it seems like he's very discerning about the projects he picks, but also is like not afraid to continue picking projects. So I'm excited to listen.
Yeah, and then also like between now and when we recorded, it came out that the Imperial book was supposed to have a spin-off. I think they were supposed to do an Exile spin-off, and Steve was going to write that. I guess that's not happening. We don't
Yeah,
talk
I've
about
heard
that
that
either.
I've heard that Imperial got axed the spin-offs. And yeah, there
Yeah,
was supposed to be a whole Xandra, Lilandra, Xavier
right.
Exiles spin-off, and it looks
Which
like
would have been cool.
Planet She-Hulk and Intergalactic might be the only Imperial spin-offs, and I haven't heard a single person talk about Planet She-Hulk. No shade. I've just like not heard people talking about that, and yeah, seems like Marvel knows how to bungle a Hickman event. He offers them so much, and they just like their follow through is not solid.
I mean, he did do Ultimate Spider-Man, but of course that's ending soon. Gods
Yeah,
was only eight issues long. Imperial, obviously, a huge event that was reduced to 4 issues. But yeah,
four issues, four
it's
issues.
it's kind of
Crazy.
surprising. And right now we don't know what he's up to because currently, with Ultimate Spider-Man officially done, he has nothing in the books for anything he's writing.
Yeah.
But I'm sure something will pop up soon.
I wonder if we'll go back to doing a creator-owned. Who knows?
I mean,
Also,
he's
I'm Alex. Hi, folks. If you forget who I am, you didn't
right.
introduce me, Dave.
No, I said Alex. I said your name. I didn't introduce you, but I did say your name.
Okay,
That's
good.
sort of like, anyway, yeah. Alex Schlesinger's on the show with us, folks.
Yeah.
We're going to recap the biggest news of the week, talk about our favorite comics, and more. Before we get into the news, though, I saw Scream 7 last night, and I think the reviewers are being harsh. It's not that bad. It's watchable.
It's watchable. I know. I'm sure a lot of reviewers are, part of the very reasonable like anti-Scream 7 campaign because of the Melissa Barrera
Oh,
firing.
that's a factor, the political element, yeah.
I think that has colored a lot of reviews, which totally accept. I do think it's a little unfair to like see the movie and like let that decision color
Right. You should be
the
reviewing the work, not...
the creators, but I also totally understand the desire to like not support the movie because of that decision.
Right.
I've also seen so many people spoiling who Ghostface is because
Yeah.
they are mad about the Melissa Barrera thing, which I do think like petty spoiling is very funny.
Yeah. I will say, when they do reveal who is the killer, it is kind of hokey, and since that's almost the last scene of the movie, that I think I think about this a lot as a reviewer. When people give negative reviews to movies, sometimes I swear it's because the last 10, 15, 20 minutes is
That's
so
what sticks
bad.
with them.
It's the
Yeah.
last thought they had, forgetting that everything before that was actually quite good, which is, in the moment I was like, okay, this is pretty bad. But most of the movie was good. And Neve Campbell's back. She's amazing. She looks great. Courtney Cox is also in the movie. Moving on to the biggest comics news of the week. Let's start with Sonic vs. Godzilla. This actually was announced a little bit before last episode, but we got to get to this. Obviously, IDW has a relationship with Godzilla for the last couple of years, or year or two, and they've been doing the ongoing Sonic the Hedgehog comic, and of course now they are both fighting. Nick Marino is writing with Jack Lawrence on art, And the first thought I had when this was even uh, people were getting hyped that this might even happen a year ago is how the hell does a 2 foot tall hedgehog fight a skyscraper?
Yeah. I know, because I'm like, from my experience with Sonic, he's not usually fighting kaiju. It's usually
Right.
the biggest are human size.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
this looks sick. The variant covers are gorgeous. And also Sonic's with his whole gang, so it's
Yeah.
not just 1v1.
That's true. If you are a follower of Supersonic Monthly, the AIPT only Sonic column, an interview will be coming later in a couple weeks, I think, with the
Oh
creative
yeah.
team around this. So that'll be cool. And we'll get some insights there. Moving on to some Marvel Comics news. We already knew Miles Morales took the origin boxes from the Ultimate Universe and brought them back to the 616. And now we know that there are two named characters that got origin boxes and got powers. Hostilicus and Wonder Man. No, not that Wonder Man. A new Wonder Man.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm glad they're like revealing them. The art is gorge. I do love Stefano Caselli's art, and I feel like he's a great designer too. Hostilicus is a little like,
He's like
I'm Hulk,
Frankenstein.
but from the negative zone. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Hulky Frankenstein vibes.
yeah.
But I love that he has Annihilus' head as like
Mm,
a shoulder armor pad.
yeah.
And I like the reference to like Scourge of the Negative Zone because of Annihilation's Scourge. Like, I wonder if this guy got powers and then took over the Negative Zone from
That'd
Annihilus.
be neat.
And I loved the Wonder Man show. I think it's cool
Really
that
good.
they are, introducing a Black Wonder Man that isn't like a retcon of like
True.
OG Simon Williams. So I think it's like a interesting first two choices. I'm glad they're not like, I don't know, I'm glad it's not like a new Spider-Man. They're not like so recognizable
Right.
that they're like these like boring variants. So
Right, right.
I'm excited to see who else is introduced.
Yeah, I saw a lot of folks saying like, "Hey, we already have Wonder Man. Why don't we just give him a book?" But it is definitely
Yeah.
some Marvel Studios synergy going on there.
Also, Chris Condon writes like such fucked up great comics. I'm like, I really trust him to make this, I don't know, like a comic that is gonna hopefully be like create like long lasting characters. Like,
Yeah,
it seems like the intention is that these aren't like characters that are just in this 5 issue series.
I did see a lot of folks on social media saying this is very similar to a '90s Marvel event where they had like extreme new characters pop up.
Hmm.
And of course, they're all saying it with a negative tone, like, "Oh, look, they're doing it again." But it hasn't. It's been a minute since they introduced a ton of new mainline characters. I mean, they've introduced teen characters in the last couple of years,
Yes,
like
a
the new
lot of
champions
X-Men teens.
and new champions. Yeah. But this was
Oh my god,
also what's
is anything happening with those new champions?
probably nothing. They'll all just disappear, and then one day
That
one of them will show up as an adult, and he'll be a supervillain, and then they'll kill him or
Like, some of
something.
them were great, like that cunty female Magneto. I was like, "I want more
Oh
of
yeah. Hmm.
her."
This is also news that was revealed at Comics Pro last week, but Marvel released an official with high def art to press, as well as the next bit of news. They released official art for a new series of What If comics. And there's some pretty cool creative teams involved here, as well as What If ideas. We've got What If Cyclops had stayed with Madeline Pryor by Jerry Dugan and Jan Bazaldua, which should be pretty cool. What
Yeah.
if Thor got Spider-Man's symbiote suit by Torrin Grumbeck and Sergio Davila? What if the Ultimate Universe survived the Secret Wars? That's kind
Mm.
of interesting by Alex Packnett and Cafu. What if the radioactive spider bit Jessica Jones by Justina Ireland and David Messina? What if Craven survived his last hunt by J.M. Mateus? I mean, come on. And Wiljar Sinar. Uh, before I move on to the others, any thoughts?
I mean, I am excited for all of those. Obviously, I'm an X-Men slut, so the Cyclops Madeline Pryor one is so fun. Like, is Jean Grey gonna do the Inferno? Because
Mmm.
like, is Jean Grey gonna be like manipulated by Nastir into
Mm-hmm.
becoming like the Goblin Queen or something? Because Madeline Pryor was only pushed into that because Cyclops fucking abandoned her and his child to
Right.
run back
Like
to
a
his main
bitch.
girl Jay. A little which one did you end on? You did it.
Well, before I move on, the Thor symbiote one's very compelling to me in that you have to be like pure of heart to hold Mjolnir. So
Huh.
maybe that could influence the symbiote to be better. I don't know. Who knows what direction they'll go in. I
Yeah, it's interesting. There's been so much lore change about the symbiote
yeah.
suit. Like, was it actually evil when it like was Venom evil when it attached to Peter, or
Mm,
like was Peter not strong enough to like fight back against like the dark impulses it gave? I mean, he
right.
was like fucking 14 or something. Um, I like the radioactive spider biting Jessica Jones mainly because
Mm,
like I always forget that Jessica went to
that's
high
true.
school with Peter and had a huge crush on him, and
Right.
I love the scenes in the comics when it's like revealed to Luke Cage that like she went to high school with him and like was obsessed with him. Um,
The
so
Craven
that's really
one,
fun.
that is
What?
fun. That is fun. The
Yeah.
Craven one, I feel like we've kind of done that before, but whatever.
Yeah, and I also always forget that Craven is like a clone now and has been for years, right? Like he's
Yeah.
always
Who's his
it's always like,
son, air quotes.
oh
But no,
God,
it's a
yeah.
clone. I don't know.
I I don't care enough about The Last Hunt to be like super obsessed with that, but DeMatteis, I'll obviously watch
Yeah,
it.
that'll sell because of JM on that. But the Captain America, what if Captain America was unfrozen in 2099 is kind of compelling to me by Mark Guggenheim and Ron Lim. That could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, they can't keep on pushing back his unfreezing in 616.
Mm,
Like they have to keep him at being unfrozen at a certain point in like the 90s because or
right.
else it would just like it would stop making sense. So this as a concept of like, well, what if he had even more culture shock by,
That's what I
you
was
know,
thinking. Yeah.
the culture shock of 2099 versus 1999 is major. So
Mm.
it'll be interesting to see how his fucking like Victorian morals are held up in 2099.
This isn't God's Earth anymore.
And then what if the Runaways hadn't run away? I'm glad that Rainbow Rowell is writing
Yeah.
that. I
Yeah.
really do just associate the Runaways with Rainbow
Same.
now. And if they hadn't run away, like, yeah, are they gonna like just become more aggressive with their powers? Because they
Mm.
are very defensive. Like,
True.
they run away and they defend against people trying to capture them and stuff. But like Nico could slaughter all of the parents in the Pride with like
Yeah.
one spell if she really wanted to. So
It
I
could go
could see
really
it
dark.
being,
Yeah.
yeah, a dark tale.
And then last but not least, these last three are coming out in August, by the way. So these are pretty far out. What if Cassandra Nova killed Charles Xavier by Ashley Allen and Sumit Kumar? That's a really good
Yeah,
combo of creative team.
it is. Yeah, really good. And also, I wonder if this is gonna go back to like Grant Morrison's new X-Men when like Cassandra first debuted and took over Charles's mind and like
Or
unveiled his mutant.
what if it just starts with her fucking choking him out in the womb?
Oh, shut up. I didn't even think
And then
about
she's
that.
born instead of him, and then she forms the X-Men.
Whoa,
Uh-huh, right?
that
That'd be far
would
out.
be sick. And if we got a new version of the baby fight in the womb, I would be very into that. Yeah, these are like sometimes I see what if titles and I'm like,
Mm,
what?
yeah.
I could not give
What
less of a shit.
if what?
What if you don't publish that?
Ooh.
Um, but these are pretty gaggy. I'm excited for like I would say like 85% of them.
By the way, I recently got some feedback for the podcast, and they were like,
Yeah.
"I thought the hosts were the same age, but then one of them keeps saying gagged, and I don't think that they're the same age." And I'm like, I wonder if that was Chris Copeland they're referring to or Alex Schlesinger.
Yeah, very hard. I am young and homo, so
There you go.
if you hear it gagged, it's coming from Alex.
Moving on to some more Marvel news. Marvel revealed they're going to be doing some variant covers for the Magic the Gathering Spider-Man collab they did last year. They're turning cards into covers, which is pretty fun and niche and strange and cool. I did see someone point out, could you imagine if someone showed up to a Magic the Gathering competition with the variant covers as their cards?
That'd be very funny. I do love the imposter syndrome cover.
Yeah.
That's
Very
cute.
cute. I used to be a huge Magic the Gathering player in high school, and this does intrigue me, although I still can't wrap my head around how it actually works. I guess you play just these cards. You can't put these into your normal decks, I assume. I don't know.
Yeah,
I sound like an old man now. How do you
I
do
don't
the
know.
thing?
I do have a friend at work who does like MTG, and but there's I don't know, there's so many MTG collabs now, like the Avatar one, and I think there was a Final
Yes.
Fantasy
There's a TMNT
one.
one coming out
I'm
this
like,
year, I
there
think.
has to be a way to put it in your set deck.
Right. It's just maybe you don't play with those in certain circumstances.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Something we all will play with is the JLA Avengers facsimile comics that are coming out all summer long. So it's interesting. Marvel revealed that JLA Avengers #1 is coming out in May, 2 weeks ago, a week ago. Didn't make a big deal out of it. And then this week they're like, oh, by the way, check it out. They'll be coming out through August. And so you can actually experience the JLA Avengers run
Yeah.
in single issue format like everyone did when it first came out 5,000 years ago.
These are going to be very popular, I think.
Yeah, I think so. There's some really cool double page covers that you can check out on AIPTcomics.com, of course, by George Perez, the GOAT. Kurt Busiek wrote these. And, with Deadpool's Batman and then Superman Spider-Man this year, I have a feeling, come on, JLA Avengers next year are going to do another one-shot series, probably.
Totally. I see that being very possible. And the wraparound cover for number 4 of Superman with Captain America's shield and Mjolnir is sick as
It's
hell.
really cool, yeah. These were very iconic for many, so yeah, I think these will do really well. Last but not least, Oni Press revealed a graphic novel lineup through fall 2026, and there's some pretty kooky titles in here. A Ghost Star Made of Angry Ghosts. Love that.
Yes, which is described as if Daniel Clowes and David Lapham got together and tried to create the X-Men, but really didn't care that much if they saved the world or not. And I'm like, that sounds like right up my goddamn alley.
I'm not familiar with the creators, Oliver Mertz and Alex Diaudo, but that does sound really fun. There's another one called Moon Deer, which looks super cute, by Jan Kavig.
Does look
It's a
cute.
hardcover. There's also Haunted Comic Club, another. And if you go to aptcomics.com, I think just seeing the covers will give you the vibe they're going for. This one
Yeah.
feels very young adult, for instance. And then last but not least, Canticle of Lost Souls. What the hell is a canticle?
I'm literally gonna Google it.
Because
All I
I'm an
know is
English
that
major.
the cover is very beautiful.
Hmm.
Um, a hymn or chant, typically with biblical text, forming a regular part of a church
Oh
service.
shit! You do that every Tuesday.
Yeah, no, exactly. I actually have another podcast called Canticle of the Comic Character.
I thought it was Canticle of the Schlesinger.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Canticle of Slosh. Canticle of Lost Souls. I think it is gonna be I don't think this is gonna be like middle grade. I think it's gonna be like young adult.
Mm-hmm.
I have a
This
cool
dark exploration of identity and responsibility is the face of evil from Michelle Monteleone and Freddie Tonto. I gotta say, props to Oni for giving, at least in my mind, semi-unknown creators a
yeah,
chance at graphic novels. Because honestly, when you look at DC doing this stuff, it's always creators you know. Um, at Image, a little bit different, but still, this is
totally.
expanding people's careers essentially, and I think Oni just keeps winning year after year.
Agreed.
Moving on to our next segment, Top Books of the Week, our top 2 favorite books out this week. My second favorite book of the week was The Mighty Thor #7 by Al Ewing and Pascal Ferry. This book is basically one long action sequence, and that's why it rules. Pascal Ferry's art in the series has been, I keep likening it to sort of like a Disney, like classic Disney animated style. The expressions on characters' faces are really amplified, but also cartoony in a sense. And that mix is really good between realism and um, sort of like fun and light visual style. In this issue, we have Hyde show up, and if you don't know, in Mighty Thor, we're in some sort of weird quasi real world where Thor doesn't know he's Thor, but Thor the god is actually a known god in this universe.
Yeah.
Odin is a little boy who like lives outside Thor's house, and we don't know what he's up to. Um, oh, sorry, the mortal Thor. Thank you. I said Mighty Thor. That was the previous series. But this issue, essentially, Hyde is trying to run over Thor and his new girl, his new fling, and Thor jumps on the roof of this taxi cab that Hyde has stolen in a brutal way at the start, and is using his hammer tied to a rope like so expertly. It's so excellent art. It's so cool. The motion, the kinetic energy, he uses it in different ways. I honestly, you read this comment here, like it's kind of lame that Thor doesn't have a rope on Mjolnir because that makes the
No,
weapon
yeah.
even cooler.
I know the fact that Mjolnir flies, I'm like, okay, lame. I want him to use his powerful arms to thrust
Right,
this
and like use like
hammer.
the tautness of the rope to do different things. Really exciting, really great action sequence, and then it ends on a nice note where we have another villain lining up another villain to attack Thor.
Yeah, I also think that when Thor returns to his OG form, he should kill people.
Mm. Oh,
I'm really enjoying Thor killing
he
people.
is legit throwing this hammer into skulls.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. But what is your second favorite book of the week?
My second favorite book of the week was Absolute Wonder Woman number 17 from Kelly Thompson and Hayden Sherman. I just love this interpretation of Diana. I like don't know if I'll ever go back to reading like mainline Prime Earth Diana
Yeah.
because yeah, absolute Diana is just she's sick as hell. She really embodies like everything about Wonder Woman. Oh, in such a cool way, and I love how magical she is. It never made sense to me how in, like Prime Earth DC, Diana like doesn't use like mythological magic or anything like that. And you know, I think that yeah, this Diana is just awesome. I thought that it was really interesting, spoilers for this if you haven't read number 17, skip ahead like a minute, but Zatanna turns out to like not be evil, and she was just stealing Diana's magic so that she could expunge the um I can't believe I'm forgetting the name of the starfish.
Starro?
Starro parasite from her so that Kale couldn't Veronica Kale couldn't control her anymore as part of her like evil suicide squad. I thought that was a great twist. I thought the reveal that Cheetah was Priscilla, so like the OG Cheetah that was like first introduced before Barbara Minerva took over from her.
You
And
mean Kristen
that
Wiig? Kristen Wiig,
what?
right? Kristen Wiig?
I can't tell if you're kidding or actually asking if that's like
The
there's I'm
actor
gonna
who
kill you.
played the character in the movie, the one of the greatest films of all time?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh,
The one that we talk about every episode.
love it.
Yeah, it was good, and it's definitely setting up Barbara for becoming Cheetah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. What did you think about this issue? I thought
I
it was just like super solid.
I gave it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
I wrote a review on this one, and Giganta, the fight with Giganta is so
Oh my God, it
good.
was sick.
The Sherman's ability to draw scale is so good because and it's proven here because there are multiple scales as they grow bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And to see Wonder Woman using magic in all instances to match the growth of Giganta is really cool.
Do you know who the male fire skeleton magic user is who was revealed at the end?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It might
I'm like,
be that
yeah.
radioactive guy in the Absolute Universe, maybe? That's my only guess. Do you know the one that was in Creature Commandos?
Yeah, but he's not magic.
No,
Like
that's
this
true.
guy, they said that they needed a magic user because
Right.
Zatanna teleported herself
Could it
away.
be
Yeah,
John Constantine? That'd
that'd be
be
cool.
that'd be crazy. Yeah.
That'd be pretty crazy. That would be pretty crazy. Interesting. Yeah, 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 yeah. It definitely has me intrigued.
I will
So yeah.
say to see there was a scene where there are four word balloons all backwards because Zaydana is saying them, and I was like, my brain
Oh,
hurt. I gave up because I was like, I can't do this.
I had to keep on reminding myself how to read it. I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
you
If
start with the word on the left, but you start reading it from the letter on the right. I'm not good at Pig Latin. I'm gonna freak out.
I think if I had a physical copy, I literally would have went to a mirror because I could not handle that.
Or like put it on my window and like look through the page on
Oh
the
yeah,
other side.
I
Yeah,
forgot you could do
totally.
that. Science, man. My favorite book of the week, though, was Infernal Hulk #4 by Philip Kennedy Johnson and Nick Klein. This issue was gorgeous. I think Nick Klein put out some of his best work ever. Um, Essentially, the issue is a bottle episode in a sense, in that it opens with the main villain, the eldest, who is literally just ripping open planes with really important politicians and does not care. He just wants to create chaos on Earth. And then we cut to Hulk, who is inside Eldest, I'm pretty sure. And
Yeah,
he's in this like this trippy horror Alice in Wonderland world.
he's in like the Hulk plane. That's where he stored Banner
Right.
at some point. Yeah.
And he goes on an adventure where he interacts with other Hulks. And it's not explicit yet, but I think Johnson is doing something really interesting with all the different personas of Hulk. We'll see where it goes from here, but I get the sense that maybe he's going to have to team up with his alter egos, maybe. But
Yep.
really, this is just one of the prettiest books I've ever seen. Klein does this thing with the Fibonacci sequence over two panels. If you don't know what that is, it's like almost like a shell, a curve that goes in on itself, and then you turn the page and there's another one on going
Yep.
opposite. But it's as if by using that as a layout, we go deeper and deeper into the Eldest's eye, and then we come
Mhm.
out on the Hulk's eye and go
Yep.
outwards, which I think is a really cool way to show like we're going into the Eldest then or whatever. But
No, that's really cool.
very painterly art style too. Like Klein, he actually opens in his highly detailed superhero art style, and then most of the Hulk, well, all of the Hulk sequence is more painterly and dreamlike, and it shows that he has such range where you can go from
Yeah.
classic superhero detailed art to something a little bit different. But yeah, I'm. This is going to be an incredible book when it's collected. I think. The single issue format sometimes hinders these kind of stories because you get these chunks of chapter where it's all building.
I was gonna say the one I did like this issue, but it did make me I was like, "Oh, I wanna get back to, like,
Yeah,
the main." It felt too bodily for me, which is really why I like reviewing trades, because I really feel like
yeah,
a collection lets you see, like, the range and the overarching arc behind it. I thought this was really good, but that was the one detracting thing that I was like, "Oh, it feels like almost like a distraction from, like, everything else that's going on." But particularly the art, Nick Klein was really killer in this issue.
very killer. Speaking of like sort of bottle or chapters, what was your favorite book of the week?
Yeah, mine was Power Fantasy number 16 from Kieran Gillen and Caspar Wingard. I I mean, I could, review Power Fantasy as my number one like every single time. I just think that this issue is really amazing because it ends the first, I don't even want to say arc because there's been several arcs. It ends the first like era of Power Fantasy, and even Dave and I were like, we don't know if Power Fantasy is continuing. Like last week, Dave was like, "Is this going to be the last issue?" And I was like, "I have no fucking idea."
Yeah,
But it was revealed at the end of the issue in a letter from Gillen that they are continuing. Number 17 will come out either late 2026 or early 2027. They had always intended a like break so that solicits of future issues wouldn't spoil the ending of this first 16 issue era. And now they're taking a little bit even more time because they want to have several issues created and in the bag before they start publishing again. Um, this issue was amazing. It wrapped up so many things. This is like a super major spoiler, so if you're not interested in hearing this, please do mute or skip ahead. But basically, what happens at the end of this issue is a reset of the entire book series back to the 1970s when
where it all
like
started.
where it all started, and it's basically gonna be, I can't believe I'm forgetting her name, like the main character, the angel.
I forget too.
Yeah.
But Etienne
Um
and her it's Etienne, right? Who's talking to her
yeah, Etienne and her talking in like the 70s
about
eating
the
pizza.
moral choice of
And back then she basically told Etienne, like, no, you can't take over the entire population. That's crazy.
right.
And now she's going back, and I think she's gonna be a little like, I actually think we might need to be tyrants if we don't want the world to end.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, Valentina. Valentina's her name.
Yeah.
So I think it's gonna offer a really unique, like retconning of this fascinating universe. And the issue 16 itself was great, but the main reason why I would rate it like close to a 10 out of 10 is that it like really sets up this cliffhanger and excitement super, super well.
Mm.
And I can't wait. And if you go back to last week, I'm forgetting the name of the artist, but my favorite comic of this week or cover of this week was a variant for this number 16 that was like an old photograph
Oh
of
yeah,
all the supers together. So much more meaningful after reading this comic and
right.
like seeing how many of them ended up dead and Valentina's decision to like reset their journey in an attempt to probably keep her beloved atomics alive and the lowly humans populating Earth.
Morgan Beam did that cover. Yeah.
Yes, Morgan Bean, so good. Oh yeah, from Author Immortal.
I can only imagine when they reset and come back to the series that it'll probably get really fascist, like the world.
Yeah, hopefully, right? And then they can rise up against it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I miss Etienne, and he's been dead for a while, so I'm excited for him to be back.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like he's one of the more morally. It's weird. It's like, is he morally corrupt or is he trying to do the best for the world? Can
Well, and
we?
then one of the really interesting things is that Magus will be alive again. Because
Mm,
in all the comics we've seen, he's been dead and he had been replaced by like Dev, who like wasn't actually an atomic, but was just like a
right.
member of like the pyramid. So we've never actually like seen the mages. So yeah, a lot of interesting possibilities for number 17 when it comes out in a few months.
You know, it's interesting. Is Gillen trying to pull off a Hawks and Pox here in that we're essentially resetting
Oh, like a Moira
because we're
McTaggart type
resetting.
thing.
We know the characters now pretty well, but we're resetting in a new atmosphere, and now we get to see how that functions. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's pretty. Yeah, and it's. I forgot one of the things I love the most is that like Valentina isn't an atomic. Like she's literally an angel. At
That is
least
a
that's like what the
that was always a weird wrinkle. Yeah,
it explicitly
not
says
weird in a
like in
bad
her
way. I should
bio
say.
in the beginning that like she is an angel from heaven and
Right,
she was born at like the same minute that the first atomic test was done or something. And
right,
in number 16 she like literally talks to God or like the host of the angels of heaven and they're like bitch, do not reset the universe or you will never set foot back in heaven.
right.
And she like sacrifices her ability to re-enter heaven to reset the universe, which is just, a bold, interesting
Also,
choice.
a similar thing happened with Satan. Is there some sort of connection to that? You know, because he's a fallen angel.
Ooh. Yes, Valentina is fallen now. Interesting.
Moving on to our next segment, standout moment
Kapow!
of the week. Boop boop boo doo boo. If I had boobs, this would like be cooler, you know. Boom,
Oh my
boom,
god, that'd be
boom, boom.
sick.
And
That's
dude,
it.
that'd be fucking sick. You're such a
You can get
bro. You're
boobs.
such a bro swole dude. This is where we talk about our favorite panel or page for the week of February 24? 25. 24? When did these
Yeah,
when did these books
whatever.
when did these
It's
books
the
come
last
out?
week of
25,
February.
25, 25. What was your favorite panel or page?
My favorite page, as you can see, well, if you're not seeing, go look at the AIPT YouTube, as you can see it along with us.
That's
I
true.
mean, look at that shit. How could I not choose this?
That looks painful.
Yeah, it's from Steve Orlando's Sorcerer Supreme number 3. It is illustrated by Bernard Chang with very gorgeous coloring from Ruth Redmond. This is Madeline Pryor wrecking Wanda's ass. The tea is that Wanda like immediately regenerates and defeats Madeline, but this is brutal. The art is
Looks
gorgeous.
painful.
The skin stripped from Wanda's face, her like decaying spine in the background, almost like it's almost like liquefaction melting of her. And you don't usually see the Scarlet Witch in like such a vulnerable place like this. Like it's in some ways reminiscent of her House of M cover with her face like nano blocking into ether.
Right, right.
So pretty shocking as, Wanda fans love you but are crazy. And seeing the Scarlet Witch be destroyed like this, even if she immediately generated, was probably a pretty kapowy moment
Oh
for a
yeah,
lot of
blew their
readers.
brains. It kind of reminds me of Terminator 2 when she holds onto the fence and is blown away.
Totally.
Yeah, that's a gnarly pick. I picked a scene from Hulk Smash Everything #3 by Ryan North and Vincenzo Karatu. This okay, so first of all, I wanted to say there's a lot of kapow moments for me this week, and I
Yeah.
I had to go with this one only because of how epic it was. In this story, Hulk, the leader has sent Hulk to when the formation of our galaxy, or maybe it was the Big Bang, one of those. Anyway, he is stuck inside a black hole, but because he's Hulk, he just keeps getting stronger over eons. So he's been inside this black hole for millions of years. And it has only made his body stronger, and so that he can break free of a black hole, which should be technically impossible. And in these panels we see here, he's like forming these like spikes that are somehow making him stronger so that he can break free. And just the concept of Hulk being so powerful or being able to get so powerful to get out of any situation, like I don't know how you go further than this. Like there's no way the crushing force of a black hole could be big. Anything could be bigger than that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
this second panel is sick. Like the Big Bang like exploding his brain is like
yeah.
really gross and cool. I don't know if I like knew that Hulk had this like adaptability evolutionary power. It's very like Darwin from the
Mm.
X-Men, where like he can adapt to like any environment. I have never known Hulk to have that, but it's interesting, and the fact that he's now Galactus-sized is quite upsetting.
Because actually, he fights Galactus later in the issue, and there are more Kapow moments where Galactus like cuts him into chunks.
Oh, shit. Yeah,
But
I've not been reading this,
I
but
feel
that's why.
like it was Greg Pak's Planet Hulk that really leaned into Hulk's ability to always adapt to anything.
Interesting.
Because spoilers for that, 15-year-old series, but it ends with the planet being destroyed and Hulk is the only thing alive because his
Yeah.
body can always adapt and heal itself and keep going. But yeah, it's just intense ideas. It's Ryan North basically saying, "Hey, let's use science to sort of explain how something like Hulk could exist
Yeah.
in such a crazy way." Moving on to our next segment, top books for next week, our most anticipated books out next week. What are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to Moonstar #1 from Ashley Allen and Eduardo Audino. Um, I don't know if Danny Moonstar has ever had her own solo comic
I
before.
don't think so.
Yeah, I'm like, I Googled it because I'm like, I don't think she has. Um, it sounds amazing. Dave is casually bragging about the fact that because he's the editor of AIPT, he got Moonstar early.
I didn't say anything.
Showing me.
I didn't say anything.
Maybe we'll go on Zoom later and you'll read it to me to bed and show me every page, my
All right,
friend.
I'll put you to sleep.
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm just excited for Danny, and Ashley Allen has done such good work with Ileana and also representing Danny in the Magic series. So excited excited for that. And then I'm also really excited for Narco #1. I a few months ago just got like really into Doug Wagner and Daniel Hilliard and like read like every single thing they've ever done, like vinyl, plastic, like
They call it like the
every
Materials series or Materials trilogy.
yeah. I just like they're so gruesome but like bubbly in like
Yeah.
my favorite way. And their new series Narco is about someone who like has a very rare form of narcolepsy, and I always have been fascinated by narcolepsy, like love a video compilation of narcoleptic
Oh
sleeping.
wow, I've never
um
even known that's a thing.
oh hell yeah. And yeah, Daniel Hilliard's art is gorgeous, so no, I'm really pumped for this.
Yeah, I guess it's a slightly different turn for them in that the main character isn't the killer.
Yes, exactly, we're not following like some like kind of weird twisted sociopath.
Right. Oh, speaking of sociopaths, my most anticipated book of the week is Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, Rite of Spring #6, the last issue in the miniseries by Patrick Horvath. This is the sequel series to the original Beneath the Trees, and Where we left off, Samantha, she got plans, and now we get to see how that plays out. This serial killer in a small town who also happens to be a bear and who also happened to fight Lex Luthor last month. Or maybe it was early this month. I forget when that came out.
Yeah.
I'm very curious to see how it wraps up. I have a feeling that Samantha will get away because why would you put your main character to bed when you could easily turn this into a trilogy?
And she
But
was just in DCKO. They can't get rid of her now.
I
She's
mean,
mainstream.
she's probably even more powerful than ever, knowing how to beat Lex Luthor.
Exactly.
Moving on to our next segment, Judging by the Cover Junior, our
Junior.
favorite cover art out next week. This is where we give the cover artists their due. I really liked the Amazing Spider-Man number 23
I
variant
knew
by
you were going to choose
Torrin
this,
Clark.
so I
Okay,
didn't.
so here's the thing.
Sorry,
There's
I talked over who did it, who illustrated it.
Torrin Clark.
Okay.
All right. First of all, Torrin's always great, but
Yeah.
there were other covers that I was like, that is amazing. It's not that this isn't amazing. It's that I picked this because, man, Marvel knows how to troll the Venom Spider-Man people. This is not the first time they have legit gone, hey, look at this thing that's going to piss you off.
Yep.
And in this case, we have Mary Jane and Spider-Man kissing. He's hanging off a web. And then we have Venom, who, MJ is now Venom, but the symbiote Venom holding back vomit in their mouth because they can't stand seeing Peter and MJ kiss. It is such a middle finger to the MJ Spider-Man stans.
Yeah,
And
very fun.
I just think it's hilarious that Marvel has such a, what is it, sense of humor about it, considering if you spend a second online. In fact, this week, my Joe Kelly interview, part 6, was trending on Twitter because people were so mad about OMD and Mary Jane should be back with Peter.
Yep.
Hundreds of thousands of views because people are so mad about this. And Marvel has the tenacity to put out a cover like this. It's just, man, they know what they're doing. This will probably sell well because angry fans will be like, I'm buying that just out of spite.
It really is so funny how they the Spider-Man department definitely just has like a troll department that just like thinks about how can we make the most money from pissing the hell off of Spidey fans, and I personally think that's hilarious.
It's interesting, and I don't think anyone else is really doing it. I mean, DC did a series of meme covers, but never troll covers.
Yeah.
But I have to say one before I move on to your pick, though. I did really like the DCKO number 5 Ian Bertram cover. This one has Darkseid, basically kaiju size, strolling
That's
through
cool.
skyscrapers. Ian Bertram always doing amazing art, and then all this crazy like sciency magic stuff going on around him, like as if he's being attacked. I just think it's really neat and cool and colorful. But what was your favorite cover of the week?
I feel like mine doesn't need any explanation. Look at that shit. It is X-Men number 26, Marvel's monster variant from their Stormbreakers artists, and this one is from Gurihiru, who you probably most recognize from the It's Jeff series. They do a lot of It's Jeff work. And I'm really excited because Gurihiru is going to be at Emerald City Comic-Con
Which you're covering.
next week, which I'm covering, and I'm already like looking through my floppies, being like, what covers do I have of Gurihiru? But I might try to go to my LCS and pick up this variant next week to get it signed. If you don't know Gurihiru, it's actually two people, Naoko Kawano and Chifuyu Sasaki, who like are basically like Gurihiru Studios. So if you ever see Gurihiru, it's not a single artist, it is this like duo of talented inker and colorer. They've also done a lot of Avatar: The Last Airbender comics, and they did Superman Smashes the Klan. So very prolific across Marvel and DC, and like other comics as well. I just thought this was sick. To me, it looks like if we did like a an amalgam
I
of
was thinking
an
the same
amalgam
thing.
universe of Magic and Poison Ivy.
That'd be really neat, yeah.
And I can't think of two better characters. I'm like, oh, they're both so like vengeful
Mm.
and gray morally. I like how Magic is still like sexy in this, but her body is also like gnarled
It's
because
like
she's like
bark or something.
yeah, so she's like kind of, I mean, it's monster variant. She's kind of grody, but she still looks like her, fierce ass Ilyana self. Love how her like classic black cloth costume is kind of like ripped and stuff. I just thought this was a really good interpretation of Ilyana as a monster.
Yeah, no, it's a cool pick. And the background really adds to it, the swamp effect and the
Totally.
fireflies. Nice pick, man.
Thanks. I appreciate you.
Moving on to our last segment, Steve Orlando joins the show. Wow.
Woo!
So, Steve, thanks again for chatting with me. I'm looking forward to Deadweight Man with Bobby Lee and Matthew Bedney. Can you explain to me how that project came to be?
Oh, I mean, it's very easy. I am the executive editor of Gungnir, as folks may know, and I'll cop to this. Like, I was not immediately familiar with Bobby, but when Matt came to me and said, we are doing like a throwback either to the Kill Bill era or to sell me even more into like the Gonzo 1980s era of action movies, and we were gonna platform and position this Korean comedian who's known for sort of self-deprecating
Yeah,
humor in it. I mean, he basically said, like self-deprecating, loser core type comedian stars in Scott Pilgrim versus meets Kill Bill, and whether I had known Bobby, which I do now or not, I was in for that, right?
sure.
Because folks who know me, going back stuff like Midnighter, I love a Gonzo action story, especially if it's a little stupid in the right
Hmm.
way. Uh, as someone who really likes Commando, so this was just right in my wheelhouse, and Matt knew
Hmm.
that, and we were off to the races.
So, should we expect some great one-liners?
We hope so. We certainly hope so. But what you can definitely expect is some, is like there's a little bit. I don't even know if Medney has seen this movie, but there's definitely the DNA of the original Warriors in this.
Mm,
Like there are like you can expect goofy ass themed gangs. You can expect yes, some good one-liners and also some dad one-liners to match the tone of Bobby's position in the book.
nice.
And yeah, I mean, it will be one part Looney Tunes, one part violence. And when I say that, I guess there's a little bit of Sam Raimi in it too. When
Ooh.
you compare those things, so I'm very excited for it to be out.
When you're working with a celebrity like Bobby Lee, who's a comedian too, do you have to think about his comedic voice when you're co-writing a project like this?
Oh, without question. And the good news is there's a lot out there, and never mind the direct resource of being able to talk to the man himself, the artist himself.
Hmm.
But yes, absolutely. I mean, just like anything else, right? If you're coming on licensed work, take your pick, right? If you're coming on Superman, you got to figure out how Superman talks and how you decide he talks in
Right.
the case of something with 80 plus years of history. But the only difference and in a way it makes it easier, is that when you're coming on something like this and the lead is a real person or a fictionalized version of a real person,
Right.
you have the direct resource, right? Like
Hmm.
perhaps obviously you cannot reach out to the real Superman and ask, him, talk
No.
to him, but when you can do that with someone like Bobby, like it does make it easier to go in and sort of synthesize their voice. And it's still a version of their voice, right? Because you are
Mm,
doing the fictionalized version of themselves. It is the,
right.
for people in their early 40s who grew up at a certain time, it is the Jackie Chan Adventures version of Jackie Chan, who is similar, of course, but not the same as the real Jackie Chan.
Now, are you going to end up on his podcast, the Bad Friends podcast? That's a pretty popular podcast.
It's possible. We're talking about that right now. I think Matt has already been on it, and he
He has, yeah, I
and,
saw
and
that.
and Matt is the
When I saw him on there, I was like, "Where's Steve? Where the fuck is Steve?"
You
And
don't
he's
want
on the
Steve on
show
there.
right now.
Matt is the exciting, bubbly face of the company.
Sure.
I'm the bad cop here. You don't want the bad cop telling you that grammar matters on this podcast. Medney is our Stan Lee man.
Mm,
So like
hmm.
in the positive Carnival Barker way, not the thieving from artist way. So, like he's the face, but hopefully,
Hmm.
if not that, you'll see us on panels and things like that together.
You're always a really busy guy when it comes to comics. You've got Valiant Beyond Exo Manowar coming out this week, where Eric is joining the Punks. Did I pronounce that right?
Sure.
Punks. After a millennia of isolation. How has it been carving out your own corner of the Valiant universe?
Listen, it has been, I mean, it's funny. Everybody gets these gigs and they say, "Oh, it's exciting, it's an honor," and all these things. And it's almost always true. It's like 10% people just giving you good copy. So it is
Hmm.
those things, right? It's exciting, it's an honor. but here's why in this case, right? Like
Mm.
something like XO specifically, even more than the rest of the Valiant universe, has been something that really has signposted my life. I grew up reading the original Valiant stuff, the Acclaim era stuff, to be completely blunt, playing the Turok video game and not knowing that it was connected to the Valiant universe at a young age.
Love that game. 64, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Hmm.
Um, that was post one. Post two, before I broke into comics, I mean, in a real way. My first published work was 2008, but it was, like 7+ years before I was doing this as my main job since then. So come
Hmm.
2012, Valiant hits big, and here's Robert Venditti,
Hmm.
relaunching with Carrie Nord. And I was there, man. Like I love being a day and date reader with new companies. Like an easy way to get me to buy a comic is to launch a new company and allow me to be there moment one. It's one of the reasons I put Cassandra Nova in Marauders, even though that's a non sequitur in a way, because she was one of the few ex-villains that I was there with the first appearance for, right? Like I followed Grant and Howard over from Justice League. Pardon me, I
Right.
followed Grant from Justice
Mm.
League, joined Frank, and uh, and like Cassandra was like I met her on the new comic book day, the Wednesday she debuted. So similarly with EXO, I had been there for all these versions, and then when I hit DC, one of the first people to welcome me in was Robert Venditti, right? Like fast forward years later, and he's coming to my wedding, and we are good friends. And I've also become friendly with Carrie. In fact, Carrie did my favorite cover for Transformers King Grimlock.
Mm.
Uh, was because of his work on XO, right? Like, I
Right.
mean, even more than his work on Conan, like, yo, you can do Barbarian and you can do tech stuff. Let's reach out.
Hmm.
So, with all that in mind, with XO being part of my youth, with it then being part of my sort of proto professional life, and me having a huge amount of respect for that relaunch, and then becoming close friends with Robert, when Alien reached out about doing a new start, it really was an honor, right? And not just for the I love comics, it has been part of my life for a long time. And and as well, I've had amazing Guillermo and Diego are both amazing artistic collaborators. And Alien has been a great place to work in that they support us doing the kind of books that we want to do. This exists
Hmm.
in the same world as Fred's Harbinger. It exists in the same world as AJ's Shadow Man. Um, but because of how we've carved up that world, like those books can have their flavor, and this can be what we want it to be on the XO team. And it's funny because I'm really, like not every gig you get are you allowed to do the exact kind of book you want
Mm.
because many factors that go on, right?
Hmm.
But this is the kind of book that made me love comics back in the 90s.
Mm.
And that means a lot of things. In this case, it does mean that it's high action. It also means it's a little strange, right? Like I did want to bring in the punks because they don't normally mash up with Arik. They were originally created by late Keith Giffen, who obviously is a foundational creator,
For sure.
and they have given me the reign to do the kind of books that made me a comic fan, like things that rhyme with Grant's Doom Patrol
Mm.
more than Grant's Justice League. Oh, even
Mm.
Grant's Justice League is strange by today's standards. So yeah, we have XO, and it on one hand, it's a very like searching for his honor, a very pat title, very pat arc for him. But it's also a book where you can have a character who is an ageless symbiote or like a long-lived symbiote inspired by Nikolai Gogol, right?
Right.
Which is a very me thing. And to have the support to do that kind of book that hopefully gets people thinking
Mm.
and presents characters in a new way, yeah, I'm having a blast. And like what's to come is very cool. We've never done Arik and Shanhara this way. It's a pseudo road romance in a
Hmm.
way. But I'm extremely proud of it. And at the end of the day, we're going to have just what honestly, probably one of the best looking books I've ever been part of. So it has been a treat.
Yeah, I was a huge fan of when well, it was like a decade ago now when like Jeff Lemire was writing it and they had that big event. It was really good. I really want Valiant to succeed, especially after that semi speed bump when they tried to go all in on movies and then COVID happened.
Well, yeah, that COVID will get you, my friend.
Mm. Uh, Leaning again into indie comics that you've been up to. Good Bones just came out, collecting a bunch of your stories, including and it also included the new story, Good Bones. I think right, that was new to the one shot.
Yeah, that is the new one.
It's a horror anthology showing that you have so much range, and many of the stories explore queer identity through transformation, secrecy, bodily autonomy. When you write a horror rooted in identity, are you consciously using the genre as a metaphor, or does that symbolism emerge naturally through, the adventure or the hook of each story? Because these are short stories, they're differently written.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, I mean, queerness, I mean, and horror has always sort of, they've always sort of mixed because it tasted great together because there's an inherent otherness in horror and there's an inherent otherness in queerness. But in my own stuff, I try not to repeat myself. So the hope is that, I mean, these are stories that often feature queer characters, but at this point, I've been doing it for 11 years. It's like we got to find something kind of new to
Hmm.
say. So yes, but the challenge for me is not going back and doing stuff that we've done in any number of other books that I've been part of.
Hmm.
Um, so it was something like The Foster. First of all, this is also a Gogol illusion. To me, a pretty obvious one, but I'm also a weirdo. Um, it's a Gogol illusion, but also it allows us to sort of analyze the ego and pick me nature of aspects of the culture, right?
Hmm.
Especially people who are on the apps and things like that. The commodifying nature
Hmm.
uh, culture, or something like Good Bones. We get to talk about. Um, yes, it's a queer story, but it's mostly about not just gentrification, but about the whitewashing, the straight washing of history.
Right.
The history gets written by the winners, is what people say, but it's also true that history gets written by the survivors.
Hmm.
So, with this, we want to talk about it is both an acute and an obtuse message because it is about, yes, like we can't ignore that queer people were here, we've been here, we're not going anywhere. But when it comes to gentrification, that suddenly the message becomes you have to respect the cultures that you are stepping into, and
Paving over.
you have to, well, if you're going to, you have to move with grace, right?
Hmm.
You have to show respect, and if you don't, there will be consequences. So, in the case of something like Good Bones, yes, there is a queer message, but I actually think that it is almost a universal message that you have to move with respect through the world and move with grace,
Hmm.
or eventually it's going to catch up with you.
Was that in Good Bones? It's a safe haven for gay people, and I forget the 50s. And was that based on any real life location?
Yes. I need to search for it, but I believe. Uh, one moment.
Do 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 do
I know.
do
So it
do
was.
do.
I'm looking for the exact
No, no
name.
rush, no rush.
But it was so because I believe I called it the Marianne spelled like that, and I believe that there was either a bad. I mean, when I wrote this 6 months ago, asshole, was but it is the name does pay homage to a foundational gay bathhouse that I believe was
Hmm.
called Marianne Mary space ANN or space ANNE,
Hmm.
uh, but without scrambling to the internet to cheat for that, we're gonna have to go to the judges' scores. Yes, but if it's not, the point is that there are many bathhouses that function like this, especially during the celluloid closet era, and these are things we touched on in Sainted Love as well.
Right, right. So we've covered three different publishers already. This is how busy you are. But now we have to move a little bit further west to Hollywood. You co-judged Dragula alongside Todd McFarlane, which obviously is a on purpose collision between comics and horror. But also there's performance art in there. So I'm curious, did that experience teach you anything about spectacle or theatricality, or inspire you when it comes to comics writing?
I think one thing that well, it's funny. First of all, I learned a lot from Todd. Like without pulling back the curtain too much, folks can probably guess that shooting one episode does not takes much longer than watching one episode. So we were
Hmm.
there quite some time.
Hmm.
And it actually was fascinating, to get a rare opportunity to sit down and you pick the brain of a creator who, not to neg myself or bury myself, but I probably would never have a chance to spend, time with or meet face to face in nearly any other context, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm like relief batter number five in comics, and Todd is like A-Rod or Derek Jeter, right? So, uh, like I never considered I would meet him.
Yeah.
Never mind get to talk business and perspective and things with him for well over 10 hours.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
Um,
that's quality time because you're gonna get past that small talk and then you have to get into something else, right? Something deeper.
yes, so that part is very good, and but as far as shooting the actual episode, what it emboldened, not that that wasn't there,
Hmm.
is the idea of sort of cross industry, cross um, not genre, but I love, well, okay. So when I was in college, it was mandatory to take an interdisciplinary course that combined elements of two seemingly unrelated fields.
Hmm.
In our case, it was English and mathematics. And
Hmm.
so the whole course was based around Tom Stoppard's Arcadia. And it was co-taught by an English professor and a math professor. This is how I
Wow.
feel the benefit of something like us as comic creators being on Dragula. It's the same reason when I do panels or pitch panels for conventions, I don't like them to have only comic creators. One of my favorite panels I ever did was at GalaxyCon Raleigh a couple years ago, and it was about character creation. And instead of it just being all comic creators, it was me, it was Witchy Brew, who had won Cosplay, which was the first cosplay sort of competition in the vein of Project Runway or Drag
Oh,
Race.
that's
And
cool.
then it was Chris Statlander, who until last week was the All Elite Wrestling Women's World Champion. And we just talked about how all of us, through what we do, approach character creation. This is what I think the benefit of me and Todd being on Dragula is, because we at first you're presented with this thing that is so different from what you do.
Hmm.
Uh, and then as you speak to the creators and the performers and you get their thought process, you see that it's not actually that different. The means and the method are different, but the end goal is the same. And that's really what they're doing with each new look and each week.
Right.
So talking to them, that's the other get, right? Talking to Todd, getting that chance and learning from one of the masters is a massive opportunity, but it's also an opportunity to talk to people who are absolutely stellar at what they do and find out how you can apply their thought processes and how they view either a new challenge or a new character or a new look and how you can apply to what you do. So yes, absolutely. Come away with a whole new perspective on how we make new characters, what we focus on, the details and lens we use, and I think that's invaluable because it, not only does it end up making better characters in comics, but it helps make my perspective one that you can only get from, for better or worse, Steve Orlando and no one else.
I wasn't. I've met Todd in real life, but also interviewed him a couple times, and I wasn't sure what to expect from Todd on on something like Dracula, and he did an amazing job, as well as you did. I can only imagine when you're like working with an artist to say craft a new superhero, you're literally seeing like superhero style costumes on the stage there.
Oh yeah, and I obviously I've been to other drag shows. One of my husband's good friend was on Drag Race, and I also really like pro wrestling, right? So I have a lot of, my perspective, even as a judge, I think was certainly different from Todd's, but also
Mm,
different from Jack and Swan's in a way that hopefully was additive, because I
hmm.
like live performance is what I have the utmost respect for, and I
Right.
often think a lot of in the current season of Drag Race, someone, it might be Mia, uses the term bedroom queen, like, which appears to be most the same as like social media queen. Like, you don't really go out and perform, you just post looks, right?
Right.
But to me, like, the key for that episode is when JK had
Mm,
like a minor malfunction with her outfit, but
mm.
rather than like losing her shit or like asking to redo it, like she rolled with it and made it part of the show. Like that to me is what real sort of live performance
Right.
is.
Right. Hmm.
Where if something, like, sometimes things go wrong and you got to yes and if you can yes and make it look good, then you're a real professional and not an amateur. And that type of stuff is really important to me. So yeah, I mean, hopefully I also, from where I come from, brought a unique perspective to the show.
Well, I'm hoping you're on the next season. But before that happens, can you tell me who were you rooting for in the finale of Dragula's Titans season two?
I sure can't.
I wanted Obora to win so bad, but everything went wrong. Um,
I will say I did feel bad for Abora, because I don't think it's a secret based on my critiques that had that been an original character, I would have picked her to win that the challenge I was the judge for. I mean, like,
mm,
it's because there's no getting around that it was very obviously Bizarro, and the challenge was to
yeah,
create an original character. But beyond
yeah,
that, I mean, I meant what I said. Like, even Eva, who won and did an exceptional job, she did an exceptional
yeah.
job in a way that I had seen before. Only Abora showed me something that I in all my years had never seen, and
Yeah.
that really is something to be proud of.
Yeah, she had a it was it was like on stilts and it was like Superman, but it was bizarre. You're right, it was a little too exactly the same as what you might see on a comic book page, but maybe they just didn't get the challenge to be more original. Um, moving on though to wrestling, you mentioned wrestling. You're also writing DC AEW, and obviously wrestling and superheroes, they thrive on spectacle, but they also rely on heavy character-driven drama. When you're writing this series, how did you balance that over-the-top live event energy with, making sure the character pairings felt emotional and thematically right, rather than just a fun mashup?
Well, the good news is that, though the common sort of refrain is that WWE is the story company
Hmm.
and AEW is the sort of work rate company, the
Hmm.
in-ring wrestling company.
Yeah.
And to an extent, that's true. To the extent that matches are often longer in AEW and there's more focus on the in-ring wrestling. But that being said, the characters in AEW are still extremely bold and extremely indelible, right? So the good
Hmm.
thing is that you can look at an Orange Cassidy or a Tony Storm or a John Moxley, and it's not hard to think about who they're going to have tension with or who they're going to have a fun time with, in the same way as crossing over anything else.
Hmm.
That's the good news, and in a way that I consider AEW to be more in that vein, because their characters often are riskier, right? Like I
Hmm.
couldn't see, and it's not a slight to WWE, but I couldn't see someone like Orange Cassidy uh, getting over in WWE because they like all their characters. They don't often do eccentric characters, right?
Mm,
Like someone
right.
like at least not in the long term. Someone like Undertaker was the exception, not the rule.
Hmm.
Uh, and it's harder when someone just is an athlete who wants to win real bad to match against larger than. There's nothing wrong with that, right?
Sure.
But it's harder to see how they fit in with a Batman
Mm.
or something, right? Not the case with the AW roster. As to how we approached it, this is going to be a weird pull, but I looked at it. You may have even covered an AIPT. You may not have. I don't even know if you overlap with it. But many years ago, my friend Tony Bedard wrote a crossover called "The Crisis of Infinite Kernels," and it was a promotional book for Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Uh-huh. Oh, I
Uh,
remember this. We newsified it. Yeah.
uh, I hate that word. Never heard it before. Um, uh,
Uh,
but anyway, but the reviews to that were all extremely positive, including within the industry, because even though it was about a multiverse of Colonel's Sander, uh, it also just read like a great comic book one shot or comic book
mhm,
event. So when it comes to DC AEW, my hope is that it's the same thing. If you've never watched wrestling before and you just buy every DC book, you just think this is a fun, like, love letter to comics.
mhm,
Uh, and if the reverse is true, you're picking it up as an AEW fan, you've never read a comic before, there's also plenty in there where you think this is a love letter to wrestling. And
mm,
of course, the ideal is that it's a love letter to both. But we are writing it, trying to thread that needle and hit the center of that Venn diagram where anyone from either of the worlds, quote unquote, can love it. And if you happen to know both, even better. But that's also why it's not just taking place in the wrestling ring, right? Like, as a matter
right.
of fact, very little in the wrestling ring in the first issue. You'll see what happens in the second.
Ooh.
Uh, but we want to just make it a big gonzo crossover with all these big personalities, and once again, like, we're lucky because those are indelible in AW. You know exactly what would happen if Guy Gardner met John Moxley. You know exactly what would happen if Nightwing met Will
Mm,
Ospreay. It's the core of who they are. That's kind of the thing. Like, even if the storylines themselves aren't necessarily as soapy or operatic as in WWE, the core drives of these characters are all so clear that they could leap right onto versus off of the comic book page. And so, honestly, been one of the easiest aspects of the book.
well, with your background, I'm sure it was practically easy to write too. What's the deal with airplane food? All these bracket style fight comics this in the last year, like DCKO, Exquisite Corpses, Battle World. This is. Do you think there's something
Oh,
in the
we have
air?
no brackets, girl. I mean, most This is, I mean, so must be something in the water that I'm not
Zeitgeist? I don't know.
that I haven't drank because we haven't done it. But I mean, it seems to be doing very well. It's funny because this definitely feels like it's like it rhymes with KO. But as you've seen when you read the book, like we are a comic crossover. This
Right.
isn't not a tournament. But at the same time, like I think that it's having a moment. You know, oftentimes things seem to organically rhyme in the business in ways that, you know, if there is a method behind it, I myself, after over a decade, have not found it,
Hmm.
you know, like, and so I tend to think, you know, in the same way that Hollywoodland can come out the same year as Black Dahlia, right? Like,
Mm-hmm. Right.
happen. That tends
Two
to be my,
volcano movies at the same time. Yeah.
oh man, and both terrifying in their own way. Fucked me up as a kid, big time.
Yeah, I was the right age for those. What was it?
I think about that dude melting into like an inch of lava in Volcano all the time. It's
In the
so fun.
subway? Yeah, the subway train,
Yes, the
right? Yeah,
subway,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
the
yeah.
grandmother voluntarily like burning herself with acid to save
Yeah.
her kid. Fucking, I did, dude, for years. I would go skiing, and I would have nightmares that the
Oh,
fucking ski was just going to open up like in
yeah, yeah.
Dante.
Dante's Inferno.
Anyway,
Yeah, that was crazy.
no, Dante's Inferno. That's a little older than Dante's Peak by a
Oh,
couple.
Dante's Peak. Sorry. Yeah, you're right.
But
But it had Pierce
anyway,
Brosnan, so
yeah, both do. Yeah, like. I tend to think that's what's going on, but again, I say that as someone who I could, you know, maybe they'll welcome me into the behind the scenes Illuminati like next week, and I'll
mm.
know that it's not a coincidence that whatever happens to Batman seems to also happen to Captain America.
Can you talk a little bit about or tease the status of Wanda and Vision's relationship as of now?
Oh, I mean, yeah, they're still broken up. I mean, that's just, I mean, their relationship is what it was at the end of Scarlet Witch and Vision.
Okay.
So I mean, Wanda remembers the entire life they had together in the outer dark, but due to the danger, you know, due to having to remove Vision's memories to remove his sort of heightened, for lack of a better term, Super Saiyan state he had during that
Hmm.
series, Vision does not remember that, and that's, you know, that's the tragedy. It's our sort of nod to Doctor Who in a way, and the husbands of song.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I mean, they are where they were before, former lovers, formerly married, who are still quite good friends and still love each other, not necessarily in a romantic way. But there is this added thing that Wanda remembers that for now, Vision does not. There is a way, if people are reading the book carefully, that we could restore that version of Vision and those memories.
Exciting.
Um, but if, you know, if we see fit or someone in the future sees fit, but that, you know, we just, there is an added tragedy to them, right?
Hmm.
You know, in the same way that Wanda, you know, in a way, it mirrors what happened with Loki.
Mm.
She had you know, the duel of truths with him, and won by essentially admitting that they could be a perfect couple together, but it could only be this version of Loki, this absolutely truthful version that he
Mm.
could never actually be
Hmm.
outside of a dare, outside of a game. And similarly, like Wanda now knows that there was a version of them that worked not on this plane, you
Mm.
know,
Right.
and not around, but those are memories only she has. So for now, you know, they're right where they were. They care deeply for each other, but that does not mean that they are getting back together as a romantic couple. And also, I would point out, I think that that is makes them all the more unique in comics. It is
Hmm.
oftentimes we can take a relatively childish or reductive look at relationships in comics.
Hmm.
You know, are they're broken up, they're back together, they've always loved each other, what are these things? But the reality, you know, is that everything in between happens. And I
Right.
think it's rare that you get to see a couple who is divorced and,
Hmm.
you know, I do listen, not to shade people who think this, but I do think it's a childish view to assume that they have to hate each other now or they can't get along. That's just what works.
Sure.
And it also doesn't mean they don't love each other. It just means they don't work as a couple. Like that's just adult life.
Yeah.
So, but you don't get that represented that often. Where like there's no question that they care deeply for each other. They still, you know, but it's not. They just know the ways it does and doesn't work.
Hmm.
And I think that that's very special for them to have that. I mean, they still rely on each other. There's just, you know, it's just not what it was before. In a way, the relationship may be even stronger than it was when they were married. It's just not the kind of relationship it was back then.
It kind of reminds me. I recently just talked to Joe Kelly, and I don't know if you're reading Amazing Spider-Man, but there's this alien called named Raylith, has a bit of a fling with Peter, and it feels more mature and adult for Peter to have a kind of a fling that's not necessarily full blown romance which was exciting to see because usually it's either will he be with MJ or how is he going to screw up this relationship? You know what I mean?
No, yes. I mean, the more complicated and dynamic a character is, the more realistic they are.
Mm,
And I just think that we don't, not everything has to follow the same track. People can break up and get back together. Yes, that happens, but people can also break up and form an entirely different bond. Look, I mean, this happens with divorced parents all the fucking time. I don't know what else to say.
that's true.
And so I'm actually really happy with where they are right now. It is maybe, like I think that it is a singularly unique relationship in comics,
Hmm.
and something I'm really proud of.
You've also got Agatha Harkness as your main antagonist in Sorcerer Supreme. What makes her fun to write?
Well, I mean, Agatha is supremely confident in herself, even when she's not.
Hmm.
And I like the idea of that we've been digging into in the run. Obviously, like we picked her up from Midnight Suns,
Hmm.
and we had to lean into the fact that she was an evolved character, right? She
Yeah.
had become
Hot.
younger in appearance,
Hot
and
Agatha.
and all these things, but also at the same time, like it allowed us to look again and play with perspective. You
Mm,
know, it is one of my favorite moments that we've been able to do with her is a moment. I think it's in the second issue of Sorcerer Supreme,
mm,
where Wanda realizes again, like one of Wanda's biggest weaknesses is her own perspective or lack thereof.
hmm.
And she realizes she feels like Agatha has been her lifelong friend, but she hasn't been Agatha's lifelong friend because Agatha's well over 10,000 years
Right.
old. So for Wanda, how this is Wanda looks. How could she do this? She would never do this. This is out of character for her. She wouldn't do this. And she realizes the entire time I've known Agatha has been a microsecond in her life. She has
Right.
no idea what Agatha's like, and most people in the Marvel universe don't.
Hmm.
Um,
That's exciting to
so,
write.
but it's been nice to show the ways that that is true and not, right? As we
Mm,
move through in the series, like Agatha may be more aggressive and antagonistic than she was, but you see her tell the Vishanti, she's never actually in her mind,
hmm.
work against Wanda, and she won't kill her, right? Like she will split the difference. She'll honor
Right.
her oath. But there are lines she won't cross, and it's folly to think that she actually at least doesn't believe she's on Wanda's side. Is she in reality? Different story. But in her mind, she's always doing what's best for one of her recent closest friends. Um, but that again, it doesn't mean it's going to look like what we expect.
Right.
And I think we project a lot of that onto characters as readers. In the real world, we can't fathom someone who's 10,000 years old. We can't
Right.
fathom be like. And in the real world, we are humans without magic powers, so we don't settle things necessarily the same way. Our lives have different stakes. Wiccan, at one point in the series, says that boxers settle things in the ring. We settle things with magic.
Hmm.
Feud and even a game between sorcerers as powerful as Wanda and Agatha isn't going to look like you and I playing catch in Swampskit, David. Like
Town
it's just
drop. Town name drop.
it's it's not it's just not. So I think picking like Agatha allows us to interrogate our own sort of biases and perspectives and realize that there's a much deeper, much more nuanced story and character there, simply because like her lifespan is one that we could never experience in real life, and to be frank, could really never start to understand.
Right. Speaking of projection, Agatha is the Vishanti's chosen Sorcerer Supreme. I was curious if you're drawing from any personal life experience having someone be picked over you when writing this story arc, since Scarlet Witch has taken the mantle and refuses to give it to Agatha.
I mean, I think that we've all been picked, other,
This is where you
we
say, when I was in second grade, I was picked last at dodgeball.
nah, dude, I did sports, fuck that. But like, but no, I mean, like, but so it is, but it's not really my experience so much as the common experience we see in nearly every marginalized group, right? Like, not to get too political, but like, Barack Obama in order to be president as a black man, had to, be a constitutional lawyer and
Mm.
senator and have multiple degrees and a wide experience. Donald Trump has to be alive and white.
That's so true and sad.
So,
Uh,
and never mind, like barely literate, right? So,
mhm.
and I think we've seen that time and time again. Like it doesn't, and this like that's the end of politics in this interview because it doesn't have to be that. Like that,
Yeah.
nearly everyone in any marginalized groups know that there's this stay in your lane, not, I mean, like glass ceiling is often associated with women. So I will say like an invisible barrier in ways, right? Like, well,
Mhm.
you can do X, Y, and Z. And you've seen it before with like, Sam Wilson is a Captain America, not the Captain America. Like,
Right,
don't stay
right.
too far. Or like, yeah, like anything, you can do your thing, right? But don't take our thing is very common. Try to ascend to the height of your own silo, your own Mortal Kombat tower, but don't step into ours.
Mm.
So with Wanda, yeah, I mean, it is, she faces all the same second guessing and double standards that any other woman faces, any other marginalized member of any marginalized community faces. And like me, in times when I have been judged for being either Jewish or queer in spaces I would not think that would matter, suddenly, once she's no longer the Scarlet Witch and sort of elevating herself to Sorcerer Supreme, now it's a problem, right? Well,
Right.
Wanda, you're not doing Wanda stuff, so maybe slow your roll a little bit, maybe pump
Mhm.
the brakes. It's like once she steps out of the narrative the world has set for her, suddenly even people who maybe didn't think she was a problem before do, right? Because she's not behaving,
Right.
she's
Get in
up.
line.
So
Hmm.
so that's really like that to me is a big point. And I think anytime you also want to democratize something and universalize something, as I mean, Wanda wants magic to do more for people. She sees, there's this big narrative in the Robinson run, which I love, by the way. This is not about me not liking it, about how, magic has a cost and every spell has a cost. But Wanda's a character that breaks norms and can bend reality. So one of the things she's realized is that that isn't something she necessarily believes in, right? Like it's like the Grant Morrison School of Magic versus the Alan Moore School of Magic. It's street magic versus elitism. Uh, and I think that that's very important to her. I mean, magic in this story is a metaphor for means, it's a metaphor for accessibility and agency, and she wants that for everybody if possible,
Yeah.
or at least for people. And of course, people will say, well, the rules exist for a reason. How can she say that? And part of that is being a structuralist, part of that is supporting the system and hegemony, and then part of that is true. And the part of that that's true, of course, will be reflected in the story when Wanda eventually finds out that you can't keep breaking rules forever. Some of them do exist for a reason, and some of them just exist to entrench the power structure. But it's not all or nothing. And she's going to find that out herself. She's not perfect. She's going to break things and eventually break the wrong thing.
Marvel's on this tear of doing 10 issue runs these days. But then your series with Scarlet Witch has had, I think you're on their fourth run now, miniseries, I should say. Are there advantages or disadvantages to this format? Would it be easier to say to write 50 issues with consecutive numbering without without worrying about legacy numbering? Or is it easier in a sense to write two 5 or 6 issue miniseries?
Um, well, it depends what way you're asking easier.
Mm,
Um, in a world where it was possible in general to have a series go to 50 issues and not be a random outlier when that was the norm,
yeah.
of course it would be easier because you get to actually plan subplots that
Mm,
last beyond a 5 or 10 issue arc, et cetera, et cetera.
interesting.
Um, but that's why I say it matters what you mean by easier, because the thing that is least easy in anything you've said is to get a series that lasts to 50 issues.
Sure.
So, because nothing for the most part does, when books are, I mean, that's a whole discussion that is a little bit inside baseball and a little bit not what this interview is about. But books in general struggle to go past certain numbers, and there's a lot of reasons that go into that. The vast
Yeah.
majority of which the readers don't know, right? Like, I mean, like
Right. And then
everybody.
they blame the creators, which isn't true.
Well, I mean, it's not. It's just, like again, it's like a kid coming downstairs in their adult parents' lawyer outfit and trying to give a deposition about why they need less of Yoo-hoo. They just don't know. I mean, and there's no reason they should know the reality of the situation. For the same reason, I don't have secret box office knowledge of a movie that I wish did better.
Right.
Um, you know, there's not the expectation there.
Sure.
Um, but that being said, they don't know about a given publisher's rubrics or what they consider success, which can vary by publisher, depending on
Right.
their own.
Right.
Point is that the real win is getting to tell these stories for as long as possible.
Hmm.
And yet there are different challenges to having to essentially do seasons, right? And
Yeah.
broadly wrap stuff in a 5 or 10 issue sequence because you don't know what's going to come next.
Hmm.
Uh, but if you're asking, I mean, I would much rather do that. I mean, when all is said and done, we have by far the longest solo Scarlet Witch run that's ever
It's
happened.
impressive, dude. Most creators get kicked off and another creator comes on, and you've kept going.
And we're gonna go. We'll see what comes next. But I mean, to be able to do that
Hmm.
uh, is, I think, really exciting. And also, at the end of the day, what you're seeing here is you can call them growing pains, you can pick your metaphor, but you're also seeing the difference between like the periodical direct market, which is still often the lifeblood of a book, even though it in of itself is struggling across the board
Right.
um, in the face of things. Of course, like people love to say the trades, but also things like Webtoon and digital readers, which are absolutely fucking crushing it right now.
Hmm.
Uh, what you're seeing is the difference between like how you keep a book going long enough there to serve the other audiences. When people buy Scarlet Witch Volume 3, or they buy the eventual Scarlet Witch by Steve Orlando omnibus, Steve Orlando and whoever else they list on the cover. I don't actually support naming books that way. They should list everybody who worked on it.
Yeah, I remember when
Uh,
Donnie Cates's name was like right there in the title, and it was like, I guess Stegman
I
isn't
mean,
a factor.
the reality is that they do that because I've had different collaborators on it, but I do not support it. Like I
Yeah, I
think
suppose that's true.
like because it would be Steve Orlando and but the point is I don't like there should be a better way. But when you buy the Scarlet Witch omnibus,
Yeah,
you're not gonna know, you're not gonna know in a year that it was multiple minis or
that's
things
true.
like no, you get like a big chunk, and people who buy, either pick everything up on read digitally or are gonna do that outside of the direct market, the periodical market, you know, we are figuring out how to service
Right.
both aspects, even as one is booming and one is, let's say, extremely volatile.
Hmm.
So to me, the ultimate win is can you tell these stories for as long as possible?
Hmm.
And that goes for me and any of my peers. Like we all want the opportunity to live in these worlds and work with these characters for as long as we can. How
Right.
we get there is always changing, but what's most important is that we do get there.
Nice. Wanda Maximoff, last question about Scarlet Witch. Wanda Maximoff has worn a lot of labels over the years: Avenger, Sorceress, Mutant, Reality Shaper, Cosmic Wildcard. How do you personally view her place in that ecosystem?
I think when we call her the primal disruptor or the disruptor, that is how I will always see her. Everything else are just different lenses on that.
Hmm.
But we've been building up to that too. As we evolve the perception of chaos, right, which is often in comics
Right.
and superhero fiction and fiction in general looked at as being negative.
Hmm.
Uh, and that's, there's a whole TED talk about that that we could do someday. But I mean, I think, like, eh, the point is that chaos and order are not good or bad. They simply are.
Hmm.
And what you do with them, I mean, if you think that order is purely good, well, then you've never lived in a police state. So,
Mm.
and that, if you think that chaos is purely bad, you've never been part of any type of civil rights movement. So,
Right.
uh, with Wanda, the first thing is, yeah, like her coming to the realization that chaos to her really means freedom. Like she
Yeah.
says in one of the runs that to be a Scarlet Witch, to practice chaos magic is to practice freedom magic.
Hmm.
Uh, and so once you piggyback off that, that's how she has to become the disruptor, right? That informs everything she does. She does not take things she does not respect norms. She does not would die before she does something simply because it's the way it's always been done. She is
Hmm.
going to do things that she considers to be best for the people around her and she doesn't care who says no. And that means, a person on the street, and it means the most powerful, magical entity you can imagine in the Marvel universe. Not that she won't pay a price for that, but I mean, she's not going to back down. I think what's special about Wanda is that, you know, someone on the street could ask for her help that she has never met before.
Mm-hmm.
And after all the things that she's been through, and the vows she's made herself, I mean, she would go all the way to the top for that person 5 minutes after knowing them,
Right.
uh, because that's what she thinks people deserve. That's what The Last Door was about, like, yeah, especially in episodes with things like Bookworm, where he comes through and
Mm.
that dude is a bit. And she kept her word to him, but also saw justice served as she viewed it.
Yeah.
She wasn't tractable on those things. So to me, she is the disruptor. And that's how she got into being Sorcerer Supreme. And you're going to see that go on and on. But all those other things are ways for her to be a disruptor. Being an Avenger, guess what? They go in and save people who otherwise wouldn't be saved. They change the narrative. Or at least, the aggressors or the oppressors' narrative. That is disruption. You want to look at being Sorcerer Supreme? Of course, she is already upending the system just by being who she is. If you look at being the Scarlet Witch, things like The Last Door, she's robbing victims from fate. She's giving people more and longer and better chances at life. So in everything she does, whatever title she wears, Wanda to me is always the disruptor.
Her bibliography moves fluidly between superhero epics, indie horror, licensed work, and the upcoming Deadweight, a chaotic comedy. How do you recalibrate your voice between projects without losing what makes a story feel unmistakably you? Like, do you ever worry, like, oh shit, I'm writing a horror story. Will this sound or be written like my other projects that my fans might be following me for?
Um, I mean, I don't know. Like it's so on one hand, on a thing like a dead weight, the nice thing I really like co-writing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that in the like some people might think that it's just a way for us to get more shit out there or whatever, but I don't think that way at all. To me, it's about doing something that is better than the sum of its parts. The
Mm-hmm.
best example is a book I was part of called Kill a Man, which came out from
Yeah,
Aftershock.
you were on my podcast. We talked about it.
Yes, I wrote that with Philip Kennedy Johnson,
It was great.
uh, by art by Alec Morgan from Daredevil and Midnighter. And what I love about that book, it is one of my favorite things I've ever done or been part of. And what I love about it is Philip and I heavily disagreed about the ending.
Mm.
And but we hashed it out and we talked about what I thought was important about the ending and what he thought was important about the ending. And the point is like at that point we were coming from if I were writing it by myself, this is how it would end. If
Mm-hmm.
he's writing it by himself, this is how it would end. And we came to somewhere upon hashing it out that neither of us would have come up if we were writing alone, and we both thought was better than what we had to the
Nice.
point where I mean, if I read it now without blowing myself too much, like I will become emotional with the ending thinking about it. But part of it for me becoming emotional is that it's also the essence of co-writing and co-creation because it is
Mm.
something that came not from my mind, not from Philip's, but from some weird athenic combination of our minds. And that's what helps on things like Deadweight, right? Because it's not just me. I'm working with Bobby. I'm working with Matt.
Right.
As far as other switches, I mean, I like other genre switches. I don't work on a lot of different genres in a given day, so I do sort of try to like have the mindset for the day. Like today, I'm working on Tarzan Beyond and Sorcerer Supreme. Those are at least both adventure books, even if one is magic and one is ecological adventure or ecological action. Um, but it is relatively the same genre. It would be hard for me to work on like Good Bones or like more
Mm.
Hello Dark the same day as a superhero thing. So
Mm.
I similarly set my mind for doing like blocking or dialogue for a given day. Some writers write, page one, panel one dialogue for page one, panel one.
Right.
I block the entire issue and then I go through and apply the dialogue, which is not how everybody works, but
Hmm.
that's how I work. And I do find it hard, I will admit, to switch gears in a given day. Now, it doesn't have to happen.
Right.
Uh, so I try to segment things like that. I try to remember what the influences are. I always have an inspiration for a story,
Mm-hmm.
and it could be literary, like with something like The Foster. It could be someone I met, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was working in the Hudson Valley, I had there was a hurricane whose name I can't remember. I'm not trying to be vague. I just can't remember which one it was, but it struck New York City. And one of my clients, and there was a travel ban. You couldn't leave New York, and we were
Mm,
in the Hudson. So imagine my surprise when one of my clients showed up at the store looking for wine, and
yeah.
as we were very confused. And I said, I really, without naming them, obviously, I was like, well, I'm surprised you're here because, there's a travel ban and you can't leave New York, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And she said, "Well, those rules are mostly for the poors."
Oh, no. Jesus.
Like straight up, like straight up, and
Yeah.
and 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 like that kind of douchebaggery, like that's who like inspires the lead of Good Bones. So
Okay.
you remember your lodestar or your North Star, take
Uh-huh.
your pick of nautical analogies, like it can be very helpful, but you have to set that up beforehand. You can't vamp it, and you can't like free associate it as you're going
Mm.
on.
For some reason, I thought you said lodestar. I was like, what is that?
I did say
Um,
load.
oh,
I
you
did say
did
load.
load, like with a D?
Yes.
Okay, good. I only have one more question, really. But before I get to that question, is there anything else you want to plug? I know you just mentioned Tarzan, but I want you to get the word out there on any other projects you might have coming.
Man, well, there's so many. Like right now, as we speak, X-Men Infinity is coming out on Marvel Unlimited. I am doing people ask if they're in continuity or not. I would argue everything on Unlimited is in continuity, but there is a goal with the current X-Men Infinity run to sort of be evergreen. Like if you're
Hmm.
coming in, these are stories that happen. We're sort of giving a love letter to X-Men as a whole.
Hmm.
And like hopefully you can come in at any one time from any one source and enjoy the story. So it's, it is I will fully admit that I consider it like people ask, where does it fit in? Like the hope is that, we are bringing in new readers from outside of periodical comics and Infinity. So it's, when by evergreen, I mean when you squint, you can see it fitting in.
Sure.
But it's not lockstep. We don't want continuity. We want the characters to feel and sound familiar. I mean, I'll be the first to say we are pushing a voice for them that is very much akin to what you would find outside of, like at least in comics inspired media, things like X-Men 97, things like the films, the studios speak, things like that, because we want to welcome new people in and have this be a gateway to all these other stories that are
Hmm.
available online. But I'm extremely proud of these things, right? Like the one coming out right now, sort of digs into abuse and pathos and this sort of and contrasts Omega Red with the much more utopian views of someone like Xavier. It essentially posits Wolverine and Omega Red as a version of Xavier
Mm.
and Magneto, where you both have these people who lived lives, in their cases, of intense abuse, and but the reaction is different.
Hmm.
Red was raised with hate and wants to hate everybody and wants everybody to hate everybody else as much as he does. Wolverine wants to be the blunt instrument that saves other people and stops those kinds of upbringing.
Mm.
So it is, it's optimism versus fatalism. But we are doing it, in part Jerry Bruckheimer blockbuster, again, part Russian novel, because Omega Red is from Russia.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm really, really proud of that. And the story that comes after, we are already working on. And once again, like it's just a blast. We get to visit different eras of the X-Men. We get to start in ancient Egypt, go all the way to the era of Mother Ascani, and I'm super, super excited for that. So that's coming out right now. And if you don't like Marvel and you happen to like DC, good news. I also do with Giovanni Pota. We're doing on DC Go, which is the
Mm.
vertical scrolling digital first app from DC. We are doing Magical Mysteries of Shazam every other week. It's ongoing. It's going to keep being ongoing for at least another season.
Nice.
And you listen, I'm again like I'm a lucky person because I keep saying I'm extremely proud of X book or Y book, but I really am. It's hard for me to find something to complain about right now. I am from upstate New York, so I will absolutely find something, but it's a challenge.
Mm.
Uh, and so with Magical Mysteries of Shazam, we are, listen, I love all the DC Go books, so they're, but and at the same time, I'm extremely proud of the fact that Gio and I are, I believe, the only team that has been consistent and done every issue together.
Oh,
Of
nice.
these. So for folks who don't know, this is Captain Marvel. It is DC's Captain Marvel. It is Miyazaki meets CC Beck, and just an exciting, also adorable book that comes out every other week. I encourage people to check it out. Extremely proud of it. And hopefully we're going to get some print editions soon too. That's not news. It's a hopefully, so don't get excited.
Sure.
Um, what else is going on? I'm doing Tarzan Beyond coming out very soon from Alien Books, as you said. This
Mhm.
is taking Tarzan into the present, taking Jane into the present, but not negating all the things that came before for reasons that'll be apparent. I mean, to be frank, not even the reasons that be apparent in the book. This is the Tarzan that was born over 100 years ago. All of the Tarzan stories have happened. Luckily, in some of the burrows, they both discover a path towards renewed life. So this is Jane and Tarzan in the present day. Um, but it's not as though their story is starting today. They have lived all the Tarzan stories you that have come out through Burroughs and the Burroughs estate. And it's given them a unique perspective. It's allowed their relationship to evolve. They're still deeply in love in each other's life mate, but they're not necessarily always spending time together. It's been over 100 years. And we also get to experience Tarzan's descendants in new ways, in his legacy in brand
Nice.
new ways. I'm really, really, uh, I love Tarzan's relationship with Kala, his mother.
Mm.
Uh, I mean, any type of, and like to me, Kala is the Ma and Pa Kent for Tarzan. Uh, his human parents are Jor-El and Lara. Like they're people he knows about, but they didn't raise him.
Right.
And so for me, especially writing this book, everything decent about him, all the things he learned, all the ways he's learned to live, that came from Kala. It
Right.
doesn't come from the Greystokes. In the same way as, for folks who saw the Gun Superman last summer, like Ma and Pa are his fucking parents. And I get emotional talking about those things, but I've been really having a blast digging into that relationship, right?
Hmm.
Kala, unfortunately, deceased in Tarzan lore, but the story does, the story brings him to the underworld, and when he is in trouble there for reasons you'll see, the cry that rings out is not some human cry. It's not his human parents that are roused from the underworld to protect him. It's his real mom. It's Kala, and I just love writing those scenes between them together. Like I think it's a really really rich relationship, but as well, this is still a big bold action book. It is Tarzan and the undead hordes, or versus the undead hordes of Blackbeard, and it's just been a blast. And
Super
also,
sounds super
uh,
pulpy and fun.
and Renato Guedes, who worked on Action Comics, who I've been dying to work with for a long time, is going to be doing the art.
Nice.
So that's coming out, and I'm really really hyped for it. Um,
Yeah, I don't see a release date for that yet. Did you see the SNL skit 2 weeks ago?
you're gonna probably not.
Alexander Skarsgård was hosting, and he dumps Jane because there's a lot of red flags, like her hanging out only with animals.
Oh my God.
It's
Well, that's
ridiculous.
and I think that might be, there's a lot more I'm working on, but as far as what's been announced,
Mm.
that might be where we're looking right now. There's always more.
Look, if you want to just announce Ultimate Universe Series 2, and you're the headliner, just let me know, right?
Oh my God, I am not the headliner, but I will say what I said online. It does look like I'm going to be writing Midnighter again for the first time in over 10 years
That's
almost,
awesome.
barring some short returns and things like that. This is longer than any return I've made.
Yeah.
And without saying where it is, I will say that it is not where anyone on the internet has guessed so far. So keep looking,
Ooh.
motherfucker. It's not there. But you'll find out soon.
I wanted to ask you one more question. I don't know if you keep up with the Marvel solicits, or maybe you already know. Do you know that Null is turning white in a few months?
It's almost like Al and I talk, and maybe we set up things in Astonishing Avengers that will pay off in other books. That's all I
So,
could. You almost would think that us creators,
well,
maybe
I
some.
didn't I didn't think creators were allowed to talk to each other. They're in their own
Well,
little
you know what?
pens.
WhatsApp is heavily encrypted, my friend. Nobody knows what's said on there. So,
So you are the co-creator with Scott Koblish of the Light Force dimension, and Null is about to conquer it. How do you feel about that?
well, I'm excited to see how it plays out. And I would say, I only to correct you,
Mm,
Scott and I and Matt Horak
hmm.
repolished all those things as the Lumina and repolished Captain
Mm,
Universe as Captain Beyond.
hmm.
But the Life Force dimension did exist. I don't want to take credit for something I didn't do, but we did
Okay.
reposition that in the same way that we repositioned Captain Universe. And I'm not like well actuallying you. I just mean I don't
Yeah.
want any stolen fucking valor here either. Like, but we did do is sit down, similar to what happened with Gargantos and repositioning Shumagorath as a long-term version of the character that is no longer like that. There's no ifs and or buts. We can use this character, which I was happy for.
Nice.
In addition to like having some fun allusions to things that I personally like, right? Like everybody
Mhm.
was up in, how is this the little squid monk Gargantos, or is this like and like one of my favorite things that happens in Tolkien, which we decided
Mhm.
to allude to, is that there are like big cosmic like versions of characters, and
Mhm.
then hundreds of years later, people who just have the name, right?
Right. Right.
Uh, and again, it escapes me right now because I'm on the spot. But there's the orc with the fucked up arm from Return of the King
Mhm.
has the same name, I believe, maybe the King of the Balrogs
Mhm.
many ages ago in the Silmarillion. And so, we look to and things like also things like Boba Fett and Jodo Cast, how
Mhm.
Jodo Cast used the Boba Fett armor and legend to try to be more intimidating than he was. So again, we made Lemonade. We looked at that as an opportunity to not just, canonize a version of the character. They would no longer be this back and forth. Can he be named? Can it appear? So on and so forth. Um, and that's what we wanted to do with things like the Light Force Dimension, things with like Captain Universe. Now they are set. They can be used, and so that was me, Scott, and Matt Horak. And yes, you've seen it appear in other things. You've seen it appear in later chapters and arcs of Astonishing Avengers. Wanda has referenced the Lumina's light, and as you said, it's almost like Alan and I talked about it, knowing it was going to you could use in the Null book.
That's exciting. I've been for over a year now. AIPT's had a column with Jordan D. White focused on Venom, and it's been fun picking his brain and seeing how smart Al is behind all of this. And it's crazy that he's running now a Null book and a Venom book, and I think fans should get excited and stop getting angry that Mary Jane is Venom. That's my personal take.
I mean, I think it's funny that I created a character named the Null like a year before Marvel's Null, but mine didn't have a K. No, I mean, I am being joke. I like it again. Actually, that's a great example of I wasn't kidding.
Mm,
Legitimately, in like sometimes things just do coincidentally happen.
right.
We created a new villain for the Atom in Justice League of America, probably within 6 months of Knull debuting at Marvel, and he was Aaron Ott. He was the Null, but
Hmm.
again, no K. So like that does amuse me. There's no shots intended there. It really
Right.
does mean sometimes this shit just happens. Um, and they're very different characters, but it is wild. I like, listen, I've been enjoying Mary Jane as Venom. Um, but I also like I think if the story is fun and the story is engaging and there's a character point of view,
Hmm.
then I'm not a golden calf guy. Look, Eddie Brock is gonna be Venom again at some
I
point.
know. I don't
We
know
all
why
know.
people think it's like
So,
bring him back. I have to
look,
go through the because it's a fan survey like questionnaire thing with Jordan, and every week there's like at least 20 questions of why are you cuckolding us? Bring back Eddie.
I'm pretty sure that's not what they're doing because Jordan isn't fucking any of their wives or husbands. So like
There
maybe
is
they
one
should.
guy who keeps using the word cuckold. I think it's hilarious. He's probably
You
not
know,
gonna see
wor-
it. But
words have meaning, but
yeah.
I just think I listen. Everything goes back. Everything comes back in comics. Long ago, when I was but a lad, you may remember Wizard magazine.
Loved it.
I'm just being a jackass, but they used to run, for folks who don't know who are reading this interview, they used to run like a dream crossover fight every issue, right? And it would be like, Namor versus Aquaman, all the stuff Witchblade versus like stuff like that.
Hmm.
And for April one year, their April Fool's issue, they ran, I distinctly remember they ran Jason and they commissioned art. This is important for people to know. Like they would
Hmm.
commission draw the characters fighting. And they ran for April one year, Jason Todd versus Bucky, and it was just two skeletons in the Robin outfit and the Bucky outfit on the ground.
Hmm.
Uh, because the joke was certainly the two characters were absolutely never coming back, and it was definitely set in stone in comics. Well, look at you now. Right? They're both back and both major players. So yes, like at some point, Eddie's gonna be Venom again. At some point, I'm not breaking news here. Stephen Strange is going to be the Sorcerer Supreme again.
No.
Uh, so,
Hey, since you
I mean,
brought up Bucky, did you see that Heated Rivalry is based on Cap Bucky fan fiction?
I'm gonna be real with you. I 100% did not. I say this with love, but there's few things I'm less keyed into than the shipping and fanfic world. I
Mm.
love that they both exist, and they should exist like in their space. But I let it ride. So I did not. But hey, I read somewhere that 50 Shades began as Twilight fanfic,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
maybe
Just dirtier. Yep. Hmm.
I think Heated Rivalry is great.
Yeah.
Back in the day, how many years have I been alive? How many decades have we had to put up with a certain kind of straight dude being like, "Fuck gay guys," but like
Mm.
it's really women hook up. I love lesbians. Well, now the joke's on you, bro, because now a certain like now the ladies are coming out in droves along with other people to watch two dudes just fucking ruin each other. So karma's a bitch, and I like Heated Rivalry. End of it.
End of interview. No, that's perfect. I love it. Let's just end it right there. Thanks for chatting with me, man.
It's always a pleasure.